Hi everybody, it's Joshua Gaiman with joshuagaiman.com. I want to take a minute today to talk about the Federal Reserve. Obviously, that's one of my hot topics if you follow the site. The Federal Reserve, they're trying to take some pretty drastic measures to stimulate lending and get the economy back into a situation where we're incurring more and more debt. Obviously, the only way the economy expands is when debt expands. That's the way it's worked since 1971, when this dollar completely was removed from the gold standard and 100% operates on the platform of debt. So what they're looking to do right now, according to a number of sources, this is stuff right out of the New York Times and also the Wall Street Journal. The Fed's considering taking unprecedented action in the housing markets by buying back more housing bad debt. And the way they plan on doing this is by actually buying those bonds. So what they do is they collateralize mortgages. So you have these huge pools of mortgages that are way upside down. Like some houses might be worth $100,000 and the people owe $200,000. So that loan's in there. And there's a whole pool of these. So you can see it's way out of whack. I mean, you might have a mortgage pool worth $100 million in loans, which means there's $100 million of outstanding debt that is supposed to be being collected on with interest, but it's probably a lot of it's not collecting anything because the value associated with that pool of $100 million of loans might only have a real estate value of $30 million. Okay, so you can see it gets way out of whack. So you have all this money, and what the Fed's doing is they're coming in, they're saying they'll buy those pools to keep the system of debt flowing, because they're really the ones that benefit when more debt's took on. So they'll pretty much do anything it takes. It's basically like, I owe you money, but just to keep me in debt, since I have no more to pay you, I'm already maxed out. I've already borrowed so much from you that I can't even afford the minimum debt payment to you anymore. So now you're saying, look, I'll just take some of the debt back from you if you'll just stay in debt to me. That's what's basically going on. The Federal Reserve, they're also pressuring the government to step up efforts to loosen lending restrictions for borrowers and doing loan write-downs for owners who owe more on their house than the house is worth through Freddie and Fannie. Okay, so what they're saying is they're asking the government to continue to invest in loans through Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae that have looser lending restrictions, which is what got us into the mess in the first place, was debt being taken on by people that couldn't afford the debt. And they want the government to invest in loans where that takes place again to stimulate lending. And then they also want loans with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae to be written down. What means they're asking for principal reduction. So if somebody owes $200,000 on their house is worth $100,000. The Fed's coming in and it's a government-backed loan by Fannie or Freddie. The Federal Reserve's coming in and saying, we want you, Fannie or Freddie, to write down the principal balance on that house from $200,000 to $100,000 to what it's worth. And a lot of people are probably thinking that's a great idea. That's the help people really need. Well, yeah, it's going to help that homeowner a lot. Don't get me wrong. And so we can get into a couple things, but we're talking about macroeconomics here, monetary policy. And when you do that, every time you do that, you're creating that money. Okay, it's vanished, but it's expanding the money supply, right? So you write down that mortgage, and what's to say that person's not going to default again anyways? And there's a whole bunch of other issues, like I said, that we could go off on that tangent for a long time. But right now I'm talking about monetary policy, inflation, that sort of thing. What it's going to do is that would end up increasing the money supply. Now, would it help the real estate market? Would it help us get back to what we were in 2005? In the short term, possibly, but in the long term, it's going to create more inflation because you're adding more money, injecting more money into the system, more easy money, more easy credit without real value backing what you're actually injecting. So that's the problem with it. And, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. A lot of people would benefit, I'm sure, from if Fannie and Freddie did start doing principal reductions. But realistically, if that help does come, it's coming off the backs of all the taxpayers. We own Fannie and Freddie anyways because they actually went into the ground and the government had to take them over to apparently keep our economy going. when the meltdown happened, even though it, if it would have just collapsed by now, we'd probably be rebuilding and be better off for it anyways. But here we are, continuing to drown it out and listen to the Federal Reserve. And they said in 2006 that, the housing bubble, they were worried about too much growth and a deflation being caused. And their greatest worry had nothing to do with the debt system breaking. They had no idea. They were making cracks about how all these builders building all this inventory. There's more inventory than ever, but the system just kept going and kept going. They didn't stop and think, wait, what are going to be the repercussions of this? And you know what my 2 cents is? They didn't care at that point. They were in the money. They were so profitable during that time that they figured even when it pops, we'll tell our creditors that we'll forgive some of the debt. At that point, we'll do whatever we have to do to keep the system going at that point. Right now, we're eating. We're being fed. We're raking in our profits. We're reaping what we've sown, which is the system of debt attached to all these taxpayers like slaves on a plantation. So anyways, you can benefit from all this because properties are getting cheaper and cheaper than ever with all this mess that's going on. So if you want to invest in your financial education and buy assets that produce cash flow, put money in your pocket, there's probably never been a greater time than right now. So chew on that. Let's talk soon. Have a great week. Again, I'm Joshua Gaiman. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think.